and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we'll be looking at some battles provided by Magister, who has been on this channel before and who's sailing today with, in his de Grasse, the Tier 6 Premium French light cruiser, together with Thorny in his Fuso. Now, one thing that Magister has pointed out to me that we're going to be seeing is some communication. And the two of them, he said, were not on voice chat, so they're going to be using the in-game communication set. Anyway, they are bottom tier, and they're up against a division in the enemy team with a Nagato, a Nürnberg, and a Graf Spee. Oh, we'll see how that goes out, and let's go. Scorching Islands, that's a fun map. So they are spawning on separate sides of the map, which is always difficult. Now, he obviously wants to be close to the Fuso, just so that they can coordinate their target firing, although there's only one destroyer, so escort duty is not a really big problem. Now, Thorny points out that they should defend their base and play somewhat passively, and Thorny points out with the exclamation point over there that this island is a point of interest. Which is true, because this is my personal favorite island, if I am playing in anything torpedo-armed, to rush in the beginning and to ambush some team if they play aggressively. So the two of them have decided they want to play this somewhat passively. Magister drops some torpedoes off here. I'm not sure he's gonna hit anything, but these are French torpedoes. They have a relatively long range, and he definitely is in range of the enemy team. Now there's the Nürnberg, he's the first one spotted, and you don't want to be the first one spotted when you're in a Nürnberg, because everybody will start shooting at you and you're in a light cruiser. He can actually use the armor piercing against the Nürnberg, but there's a lot more targets where that come from. There's the Graf Spee. Now the high explosive, definitely the right ammunition choice against the Graf Spee, because Graf Spee is relatively heavily armored. Now their team's destroyer has taken a very passive position over there, the Shiratsuyu, and is waiting for the enemy team to push, but the enemy team is not pushing. You can see that pretty clearly. And there's a Warspite. That's a dangerous Tier 6 battleship. Now Magister is giving a lot of broadside here, so I think he needs to angle a bit more, and yes, he's reversing. But Thorny points out that he wants the Nürnberg dead. And I don't think that's necessarily the right choice. The Warspite is a much slower target. The Nürnberg is a light cruiser, and he's disengaging, and he's firing high explosive. If a Nürnberg fires high explosive at you, they don't really know how to play the ship, so he's not a huge threat. It'd be much better to focus fire on the Warspite, and Magister starts taking some shots in here. So he's wisely reversing and spots the Mayhem. Now, you're in a light cruiser, there's a destroyer. You want to start shooting at the Mayhem. He's not the only cruiser there though, so Thorny again points out, hey, let's focus the Warspite. And the Fuso is probably firing high explosive as well, so that between the two of them, they should be able to burn this one down relatively quickly, because the Grasse is an excellent HE spammer. He gets 2 fires set on the Warspite. The Warspite is not damage conning, which means it's probably on cooldown, because for 2 fires he would probably otherwise be doing that, especially that he's under constant fire. Now Magister is angling his ship such that he can get all 3 guns firing at the Warspite, and at the same time not giving broadside to the ships over there. But he has to watch out a little bit on the other flank, because there is a battleship that is running down the other flank, and he again is giving broadside. Now it's got another fire on the Warspite. Warspite should have a damage con on cooldown by now. There's another fire on the Warspite. That's what I mean. that's how you do things with a light cruiser. So there she goes. Burned down his first target. Well done. And points out, hey, there was a destroyer out there not too long ago. Watch out, because his battleship is sitting there behind an island. And I can't remember what it was. It was a Mayhem of some sorts. Something was over there. In the meantime, he gets some more shots out, sets the Graf Spee on fire, and there is the Mayhem. Okay, so Thorny knew that it was there, and again Magister has pointed it out. Now he needs to switch over to the armor piercing, but he empties out his guns first before switching, which is a good move. I like that he opened the selector just before he did that, and he smokes up, but he can blind fire that one. He's in the turn, so these are probably going to miss. Yep, and there come the torpedoes, but Thorny in the Fuso was well aware that was going down. So Magister taking shots from something, But he wants that Mayhem dead. And the Mayhem makes a huge mistake sitting in the smoke thinking that he's safe. Well, he isn't. I'm not quite sure why he's spotted. Smoke seems to be a little buggy these days, but okay, there's the Nürnberg again. So they're saying, hey, call the target priority. Let's sink that Nürnberg. Although Thorny says, watch out, there's a battleship on the other flank. Although I kind of agree with Magister here. There are already 2 battleships over there. They don't really need him at this point to do anything. But there is also a Graf Spee, and the Graf Spee's got big guns, so Magister, you do not want to give this much broadside to him. He calls the priority target and wants to switch over to armor piercing. Graf Spee is a very heavily armored cruiser. You don't want to use armor piercing against that thing on 150 mils. We'd be much better advised to burn this thing down with high explosive. And there's come some shots out against the Graf Spee. These have missed or hit the island. Again, you're giving an awful lot of broadside, and there's also a battleship coming out there. Yep, he realized he should be firing high explosive, so switches over. Yeah, the armor piercing doesn't do much at this range against the Graf Spee. And again, he's giving a huge amount of broadside here, and that could have very much been it. 79 hit points. Full-on brown alert, and now finally he turns back. You do not need all 9 guns on target. He got super lucky that he wasn't just deleted by that Graf Spee and whatever that battleship is behind him. So now he's been able to recover a little bit of health, but yeah, he needs some help with the Graf Spee. He's reversing while pointing his nose in, which is exactly the right thing you want to do. You want to get to the edge of your range. Actually, I think at this point he might even want to disengage, but that was his last heal. He does not have much health left at this point. But the Graf Spee shoots a bit short, so he's varying his speed just to throw his aim off in case he realized that he's shooting short. And he's gone undetected, which means, well, they've got this game in the bag. It's just a question of can he survive. Oh, there's the Nürnberg. Now the Nürnberg is a target you really do want to use armor piercing against, even at this range, because the Nürnberg is very lightly armored. Again, some perspective torpedoes. I don't think these are going to hit anything, but they also have the nice effect that they're keeping the enemy target from pushing any further. So he's going in reverse, dodges most of the shots, is down to 900 hit points. One more shot from the Nürnberg would end him. You really don't want to get your rear turret to work at this point. You want to just be nose in towards anything that can shoot at you. And honestly, I would actually disengage at this point, because I mean, if the game's almost over, so it doesn't make a huge difference. But if the game wasn't over, just preserve the points for your team, right? If you're this low on health, find yourself a good spot to hide. And he gets the battle star for that. Well, he got very lucky, but good communication. They've called out their priority targets. They've pointed out dangerous areas, either where the destroyer was spotted last and would probably be coming out, or which were areas of interest where ships normally lurk. This is something I like doing as well. Even if I'm not playing in a division, you can totally do that with random teammates and just kind of, you know, drop a warning somewhere saying, hey, this is a spot where you would expect someone to come along. Keep an eye out on this spot. Now let's take a look at the next one. In this second battle, Magister is in the Alabama, in the premium tier 8 American battleship. The Alabama is very good at long range, it's very precise. Not so good at close range, really, but it's a good ship. And he's divisioned up with Rig Pig in the Admiral Hipper and with Quad Core in the Kagero. Now there's a second division in in their team from the same fleet, which in the Bismarck and the Cleveland. So relatively dominant here. On the other side, there's a triple division, and they're all tier 9s, with the Iowa, the Neptune, and the Z-46. So let's start this, and they're playing on Cage. Now Cage has a tradition of being a somewhat static map. That doesn't mean that you can you cannot deal with that, but you'll find a lot of people will camp around the islands and just try to long-range snipe each other. Now we'll see, there are some interesting ships in here, we'll see what they can get done. So for example, the Kagero there is obviously getting into the cap circle, and they've spotted the first cluster of enemy ships. For example, what is that Neptune doing? he seems to have tried to capture and then realized that he's more or less broadsiding in front of all his battleships. He's lost his torpedo tubes, and he got really lucky just to take 2 hits from Magister's Alabama here. So now he's bowing, and well, you're not really going to tank anything. The 2 Z-46s have both actually occupied the central island. Unfortunately, the other one of them is poking out quite a bit more than he needs to, and they call priority target on him because they need to dislodge him from there if they want to keep pushing. And he's lost a lot of health for that. He's gotten his torpedoes away, but because the other Z-46 is sitting in the exact same spot on the other side of the island, well, not really that much is going to happen here. So he decides to push around, and the other one comes out the other side. Now Magister has switched over to the high explosive and has just fired, which means that his guns are now on reload. But that Z-46 has decided, screw that, I'm abandoning the central position. And so has the other one, decided to come out in front of a Neptune, which is generally a very bad idea, but that Neptune seems to have, well, he's just sitting there, alone, next to the island. Now, a Neptune is an extremely light cruiser, and a relatively fast cruiser has good torpedoes, and has a lot of them, and has a smokescreen. So he could either use his smokescreen to smoke up his teammates over there, or he could use his speed to clear up the flank. He does neither of it. He just sits in that position over there, which means he's now got 2 destroyers coming for him on the underside of the island. Now we'll see how that goes for them. This, I think, was the Kagero using his smoke over there for I don't know what purpose. And Magister calls priority target on the Alsace, but plot twist, the Fletcher shows up. Suddenly a wild Fletcher appears. So Magister unloads his guns at the Alsace, switches over to the high explosives. The Fletcher has gone all the way around the flank. Now this is potentially dangerous, but the Cleveland decides to see if the Fletcher has any torpedoes away. And, well, you're in a Cleveland, you should know better, because you have both sonar and radar. And the Cleveland found out that the Fletcher had torpedoes away, because he ran into them. So the Cleveland's down, and they've lost, the enemy team has lost the Z. But still, they're playing very static. I don't know what the other cruiser is doing there on the enemy team. He seems to be poking around somewhere in the rear, and the Neptune's still sitting there, and has just found out that the Kagero has torpedoes as well. So, if you're in a Kagero and you take out a Neptune, well done. Which means that they're now free on the right side. They're taking the cap back, and the Fletcher is still out there somewhere. So the team decides to push forward. Magister realizes that that happens, still has the wrong ammunition type loaded, sets the Iowa on fire again. I don't know where the Fletcher is, because the Hipper, who's most qualified to deal with the Fletcher, has decided to push forward against the Iowa. So Magister is putting her in forward. Just, you know, if the Fletcher was to sit behind an island and not be of use to his team, then, well, never disturb the enemy while he's busy making mistakes. There's a cruiser coming around the right side. It's the Azuma. He's down to half health. Yeah, you really want to finish something off, but you know, you're holding the cap, and the enemy team's battleships are on severely low health at this point. Magister has basically not taken any damage whatsoever. So there's an Iowa which is about to be taken out because he's running away, and the Azuma has, well, is probably trying to chase the destroyer on Magister's team, but he's giving broadside to an Alabama. And, well, you're in a cruiser. You do not give broadside to an Alabama. Even if it's just a tier 8, but these shots are a bit far in the rear, a bit more forward maybe. So he'll take, it looks like he took 1 or 2 torpedoes from the Z, but the main guns are about to reload. He's got the armor piercing loaded, and the Azuma is giving a perfect flat broadside. The enemy team has scattered. Have you noticed that? They've all gone in different directions. Again, you need to lead it a little bit more. Yeah, that looks better. There goes the Citadel, and the Azuma is dead. And they've cleaned up the battleships on the other side. So the enemy team has completely scattered. They haven't supported themselves. Everybody was playing on their own, whereas Magister's team has had some mutual support, especially in the beginning when they were all clustered together. Now there's the Fletcher. Oh, where the balls did he go? There was nobody there. he was trying to find a way into the other map, but has decided relatively belatedly that he actually wants to contribute a little bit. So Magister switches his precise aiming on, which I think is a bit premature because the Fletcher is, well, not giving him a particularly good target to shoot at. And just now he's turning in. Magister fires. That's a bit early, but let's see. They went wide, and now the Fletcher has smoked up. And is probably again trying to find his way into the next map. But yeah, but let's be fair. He's not going to do anything anymore at this point. Magister points his nose in towards him. And that's game, pretty much. They've only lost 2 ships. And they've dominated this very clearly. Now, in terms of communication, yes, again, it's useful to call out priority targets. If you're in a battleship and you've got cruiser support, and Magister had a Cleveland and an Admiral Hipper next to him, calling out the destroyer in the central position as a priority target is a good thing. I mean, the cruisers should know that by themselves, but you know, it can't harm to remind everybody. And but what I found much more interesting in this ship is the non-verbal communication, because they have supported each other. They have mixed up the cruisers with the battleships, and they have made sure that, you know, the destroyers didn't get angles onto them. The enemy battleships haven't focused their targets easily. The Neptune has been sitting mostly without being much use to his team next to the island. And the Fletcher has decided to go onto a mission of his own and sail around all the outside and try to torp people in the back, which is not a bad thing to do necessarily. I mean, he could have cut this a lot shorter and gone somewhere through the middle, but it's not a terrible thing to do. But then you have to actually support that thread, and you have to pull ships out of position, and your team has to come in and reinforce that advantage that you have pulled ships out of position and actually focus fire them. So this is where you can really use the in-game communication to call out priority targets, to call out points of interest. So that can really help in the end, even if you're playing with random people. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks a lot for Magister for sending that one in. And this is a topic that I'm surely going to be covering a little bit more in detail in videos to come. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.